going to take care of you. Just relax and breathe in and out. And out. And out. You are my sunshine. Shh. Feel my hand on your back. Everything is okay. You are safe. You are small. You are mine. It's rainy and a bit windy tonight, but everything is okay. Mommy's here. Don't worry. Now I'm going to read you a story of Peter Pan that I used to read you when you were young and little. Close your eyes and I'll read to you. Today I'm going to read you chapter 1, Peter Breakthrough. All children except one grow up. They soon know that they will grow up, and the way Wendy knew was this. One day, when she was 2 years old, she was playing in a garden, and she plucked another flower and ran with it to her mother. I suppose she must have looked rather delightful, but Mrs. Darlings put her hand to her heart and cried, "Oh, why can't you remain like this forever?" This was all that passed between them on the subject, but henceforth Wendy knew that she must grow up. You always know after you are 2. 2 is the beginning of the end. Of course, they lived at 14, and until Wendy came, her mother was the chief one. She was a lovely lady with a romantic mind and such a sweet mocking mouth. Her romantic mind was like the tiny boxes, one within the other, that come from the parsley nest. However many you discover, there is always one more. And a sweet mocking mouth had one kiss on it that Wendy could never get, though there it was, perfectly conspicuous in the right-hand corner. The way Mr. Darling warned her was this. The many gentlemen who had been boys when she was a girl discovered simultaneously that they loved her, and they all ran to her house to propose to her, except Mr. Darling, trying, and then going off in a passion, slamming the door. Mr. Darling used to boast to Wendy that her mother not only loved him, but respected him. He was one of those deep ones who know about stocks and shares. Of course, no one really knows, but he quite seemed to know, and he often said stocks were up and shares were down in a way that would have made any woman respect him. Mrs. Darling was married in white, and at first she kept the books perfectly, almost gleefully, as if it were a game, not so much as a Brussels sprout was missing, but by and by whole cauliflowers dropped out, and instead of them there were pictures of babies without faces. She drew them when she should have been totting up. They were Mrs. Darling's guesses. Wendy came first, then John, then Michael. For a week or two after Wendy came, it was doubtful whether they would be able to keep her, as she was not the mouse to feed. Mr. Darling was frightfully proud of her, but she was very honourable, and he sat at the edge of Mrs. Darling's bed, holding her hand and calculating expenses, while she looked at him imploringly. She wanted to risk it, come what might, but that wasn't his way. His way was with a pencil and a piece of paper, and if she confused him with suggestions, he had to begin at the beginning again. Now don't interrupt, he would beg of her. I have £1.17 here, and 2 and 6 at the office. I can cut on my coffee at the office, say 10 shillings, making 2, 9 and 6. With your 18 and 3 makes 3, 9, 7. With 5 not in my checkbook makes 8, 9, 7. Who is that moving? 8, 9, 7 doesn't carry 7. Don't speak my own. The £1 you lent to that man who came to the door. Quiet, child, don't carry child. There, you've done it. Did I say 997? Yes, I said 997. The question is, can we try it for a year on 997? Of course we can, George, she cried, but she was prejudiced in Wendy's favor, and he was really the greater character of the two. Remember, Mums, he warned her almost threateningly, and off they went again. Mums, £1, that is what I have put down, but I dare say it will be more, like 30 shillings. Don't speak. Measles 1 5, German measles half a guinea, makes 2.15 6. Don't waggle your finger, whooping cough, say 15 shillings, so on it went, and it added up differently each time, but at last Wendy just got through with Mums reduced to 12 6, and the 2 kinds of measles treated as one. There was the same excitement of John and Michael had even a narrower squeak, but both were kept, and soon you might have seen the 3 of them going in a Mr. Darling had a passion for being exactly like his neighbors. So, of course, they had a nurse. As they were poor, owing to the amount of milk their children drank, this nurse was a prim Newfoundland dog called Nana, who had belonged to no one in particular until the Darlings engaged her. She had always thought children important. However, the Darlings had become acquainted with her in Kensington Gardens, where she spent most of her spare time peeping into perambulators and was much hated by careless nursemaids, whom she followed to their homes and complained of to their mistresses. She proved to be quite a treasure of a nurse. How thorough she was at bath time, and up at any moment of the night if one of her charges made the slightest cry. Of course, her kennel was in the nursery. She had a genius for knowing when a cough is a thing to have no patience with and when it needs tucking around your throat. She believed to her last day in old-fashioned remedies like rhubarb leaf and made sounds of contempt over all these new-fangled talk about germs and so on. It was a lesson in propriety to see her escorting the children to school, walking sadly by their side when they were well behaved, and putting them back into line if they strayed. On John's foot days, she never once forgot his sweater, and she usually carried an umbrella in her mouth in case of rain. There is a room in the basement of Miss Balsam's school where the nurses wait. They sat on forms while Nana lay on the floor, but that was the only difference. They affected to ignore her as of an inferior social status to themselves, and she despises their light talk. She resented visits to the nursery from Mrs. Darling's friend, but if they did come, she first whipped off Michael's pinafore and put him into the one with blue braiding, and smoothed out Wendy, and made a dash at John's hair. No nursery could possibly have been conducted more correctly, and Mr. Darling knew it. Yet he sometimes wondered uneasily whether their neighbors talked. He had his position in the city to consider. Nan also troubled him in another way. He had sometimes a feeling that she didn't admire him. "I know she admires you tremendously, George," Mrs. Darling would assure him, and then she would sign to the children to be specially nice to Father. Lovely dances followed, in which the only other servant, Liza, was sometimes allowed to join. Such a midget she looked in her long skirt and maid's cap, though she had sworn when engaged that she would never see them again. The gaiety of those rooms, and cast of all was Mrs. Darling, who would pirouette so mightily that all you could see of her was a kiss. And then, if you had dashed at her, you might have cut it. There never was a simply happier family until the coming of Peter Pan. Mrs. Darling first heard of Peter Pan when she was tidying up her children's minds. It is a nightly custom of every good mother after her children are asleep to rummage in their minds and put things straight for next morning, repacking into their proper places the many articles that have wandered during the day. If you could keep awake, but of course you can't, you would see your own mother doing this, and you would find it very interesting to watch her. It's quite like tidying up drawers. You would see her on her knees, I expect, lingering humorously over some of your contents, wondering where on earth you had picked this thing up, making discoveries, sweet and not so sweet, pressing this to her cheek as if it were as nice as a kitten, and hurriedly stowing that out of sight. When you wake in the morning, the naughtiness and evil passions with which you went to bed have been folded up small and placed at the bottom of your mind, and on the top, beautifully aired, spread out your prettier thoughts, ready for you to put on. I don't know whether you have even seen a map of a person's mind. Doctors sometimes draw maps of other parts of you, and your own map can become intensely interesting. But catch them trying to draw a map of a child's mind, which is not only confused, but keeps going round all the time. There are zigzag lines on it, just like your temperature on a card, and these are probably roads in the island, for the Neverland is always more or less an island. The astonishing splashes of color here and there, and coral reefs, and rakish-looking craft in the offing, and savages and lovely layers, and gnomes who are mostly tailors, and caves through which a river runs, and princes with thick-set trousers, and a heart fast going to decay, and one very small old lady with a hooked nose. It would be an easy map if that were all, but there is also first day at school, religion, fathers, the round pond, needlework, murders, hangings, verbs that take the dative, chocolate pudding day, getting into braces, say 99, 3 pounds for pulling out your tooth yourself, and so on. And either these are part of the island, or they are another map showing through, and it's all rather confusing, especially as nothing will stand still. Of course, the Neverlands vary a good deal. Charles, for instance, had a lagoon, his flamingos flying over it, at which Tom was shooting, while Michael, who was very small, had a flamingo with logos flying taken by its parents. But on the whole, the Neverlands have a family resemblance, and if they stood still in a row,